This is Joe's Corner 76. We will be discussing the human condition. In order to change it, we have to be involved. Do you think Canadians and their governments are conducting themselves as if nothing really matters? Can it be true we are really acting like such fools? Does this country with such potential need a reset? Here are some points I would like you to think about. You may have some more. We have a record non-pandemic deficit of $78.3 billion piled onto a runaway national deficit. The government tells us they have an operating budget and a capital investment budget. They claim the capital investment budget will build Canada's economy by a combination of public and private investment. Are we living in the utopian Never Never Land where money just grows on trees? There is only one source of money we can invest and fund the government and pay the interest on the national debt that is greater than a health benefit. It seems to me prosperity doesn't matter. Carney promises to get rid of inter-provincial trade barriers. If these were removed, the Canadian economy would potentially increase by 7% and have $210 billion added to our gross domestic product. Why is this not an important priority as much as cozying up to the Chinese dictatorship? Where are the promised major projects to get our resources to the world? We could use the billions that this would bring Canada. Should we be getting in bed with China based on our past with them? They really do not have our best interest. You've heard about them every day. Do you really trust them? I applaud Carney for working to diversify our trade and decrease the amount with the U.S. But Carney should realize that the U.S. will still be our biggest trading partner and learn how to deal with them long term. They have been our strongest allies. They help defend Canada against foreign enemies. The average American does not hate us. Remember, Trump will not be forever. Why are politicians not serious about looking at hate crimes? Really getting rid of the diversity, equity, and inclusion dictatorship, and ensuring our equality under the law and freedom of speech, thought, and religion. We need to change our practices where hiring is based on parameters that don't exclude some people like white people. Fairness says the most qualified candidate should be considered for the jobs. The governments are leaders in this ideology, and other institutions follow. Stop it now! We need to remove the curse of DEI as now practiced, where it favors certain groups of the human rights dictators. Human rights groups rarely allow, and there's practically no appeal. It can cost the person accused spending their own money on legal fees, which they don't get back if they win. Are human rights boards fair and equitable? Or do they favor certain groups over others? Let's look at the school trustee who was asked to pay $750,000 because he questioned the school curriculum on gender identity. He has to pay legal fees. They are trying to deprive him of the right of free speech, the right to an opinion. This is different from his, even though the majority support his question. I'm wondering, why should a small minority rule the majority who are not harming them? Can you recover your legal costs if you win? Most human rights tribunals do not have the legal authority to award legal costs, even if the claimant is successful. It's difficult to charge the person making a claim. Don't you think all cases should be tried in a court of law where all should be treated equally? Immigration used to be controlled, and immigrants were properly vetted, and we checked for security risks, as well as being able to absorb them into the Canadian culture and provide housing and health care for them. The Liberal government since 2019 has had an unfettered immigration policy. Too many immigrants meant there was a strain on housing and health care. We do not properly vet these newcomers, and we don't know what security risks have come through. The new immigrants were not all subject to the stringent security checks of the past. The government did not take decisive action to remove those who overstayed their visa expiration date. This government allows them to appeal and in fact is looking for ways to convert them to permanent residents. Refugee claims have been allowed too easily, especially those who came here from a safe country. We don't have enough immigration staff to process their claims. You know, we now have a backlog of over 300,000 refugee claimants. These people are given health and dental care that's better than the average Canadian who pays for their health care. As well, the refugees are costing us $1 billion a year, and it's expected definitely going to rise. We have activist judges who interpret the law as they see fit, as opposed to what was legislated. Permanent residents may appeal to the Immigration Appeal Division unless they were convicted of a serious crime with a sentence of 6 months or more. If no appeal is allowed or once appeals are finished, the removal order becomes enforceable. There have been cases where a person has been sentenced for a period of longer than 6 months and is eligible for deportation. The judge reduced the sentence to less than 6 months so the person could appeal being deported. There was a case where a refugee was allowed to return to his country 6 times, get married, and he was allowed to stay here. The Liberals claim they are fixing the system by closing the barn door after the horse escaped. Carney has set up the Major Projects Office. Where are the new major projects? He has maintained his carbon hypocrisy by not eliminating the industrial carbon tax or the tanker ban. Has he really set the conditions where private industry will invest in major energy or mining projects? His memorandum of agreement with Alberta does not clearly state the government will override any objections to the construction of pipelines east and west. The federal government has the power to do so. He has built into the agreement that the provincial governments and Indigenous people all have to agree before a project is started. Is this not just another way to continue the Liberals' climate agenda? I do not believe that Carney has clearly stated he supports national unity and he will act in the best interest of all Canadians, regardless of the political cost. The government created an agency called Build Canada Homes. There have been no significant releases on new house building, how they plan to reduce the rules, horror it takes to build a house now. Where are they going to get the skilled workers to build them? In fact, there has been a decrease in the building of new homes. Democracies around the world have pulled away from gender modification for minors. You know, Canada is one of the few that has the idea that minors should be prescribed hormones or even surgery. Other countries and medical societies are opposed to this practice. They have looked at the children who were altered and now regret it. Others who didn't get the surgery or hormones have not had any alterations done later. Schools, doctors, transgender activists, and naive politicians have got to realize that gender dysphoria should not be taught or discussed with young children. I'm telling you, this is a mental condition. Young children are confused about their sexuality, but that does not mean they want to change it. We must protect our children. For the last 2 years, Canada has zero population growth. They predict any growth will be due to immigration. I think people are worried about putting off having children because they are worried they won't be able to provide for them in view of housing and other costs. We don't encourage the building of the nuclear family. These are the building blocks of a stable society. If we don't change Canada as we know it, it will cease to exist. I am tired of the woke leftists rewriting our history to support their theory of history. We arrived at our history through blood, sweat, tears, and hard work. And through the sacrifices of those who died to protect our freedom. We need to show our history, both good and bad, and show how far we have come and how we work hard to correct wrongs. Our freedom of speech and thought is gradually being eroded through legislation. The government supports of leftist news outlets and allows universities to be controlled by Marxist and leftist faculties. They don't want our young people exposed to all sides of an argument so they can form their own opinions. We need to teach critical thinking in all of our education systems to develop informed citizens. I also question all governments who are signing agreements over large areas of land to Indigenous people without public consultation. This leaves the status of millions of Canadians unclear, and I can't believe it taking their rights away. We can't take 40 million Canadians and decide their fate by some judge or few politicians. We must examine the issue with the seriousness it deserves and arrive at a just outcome. Last of all, I am saddened by the lack of participation of many Canadians who don't vote. That means that any party that can get their vote out can form a majority government. So we end up with the minority governing the majority. Canada is becoming a nation of tribes, and we have to stop this if we're able to act together in times of crisis. Please think about Canada. Get off your asses. Get out of your country's comfort zone. It's your country if you want it. Do something about it. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Joe's Corner 76 and X at JPhilosophy76. You can hear me on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify at Joe's Corner 76. Please hit the subscribe button for my YouTube channel at Joe's Corner 76.